Hi everyone, this is my basic watercolor lesson from week 1. Materials, I'm using a 14 and number 8 brushes. Here's another 8, but basically as long as you have a medium brush, which is around 6 or 8 sizes, and then a bigger one, you're good to go. Pencil and my watercolor, I use Daniel Smith. I'm looking for them right now. I recommend using a red and a blue and then a green. So there's also a parallel orange there as an option. But basically you need no more than 4 of these colors. And we'll go. So we're gonna go over basic watercolor technique so that we can end up with a finished composition. We're gonna go over one by one, and we're going to repeat quite a lot of the exercises so you get it a bit more deeper. This is going to be the final composition that we're going to do, and I'm going to slowly demonstrate individually in terms of drawing the leaves and then drawing the berries. So I recommend doing the leaves a few times, just like I did here, and I'm going to demonstrate them now in this smaller paper. I use watercolor paper from Overjoy. So to make a leaf, I do a very light pencil line of the shape simplified, and then I do this sort of wiggle line, slightly press down a bit more pressure on the pencil, following that basic simplified shape line back to the tip. And then there is a spine going across the center, off center, like that, and a couple of branch spine, which I always recommend. If you want to do it, don't start in the same point. The next one I'm going to do is an overlap, so the front of the leaf is folded slightly. This is my first line. I always recommend to do very confident one-stroke lines like this instead of small broken lines. This is why it's really useful to repeat yourself. There we go. And then I'm going to do the spine also off center. This is it close up. And now we're going to start with the green color. So I take some to the palette, and then I started adding water to get between vibrant and weak. You add some water, and we're going to talk about juicy versus thirsty. So I'm adding more water to my color to a point where you can see your palette, the bottom of your palette more. See, I'm adding a lot more water now. So this is going to be a weak tea consistency. I started at the bottom, but because I want some beads to form, I turn it around this is what I call a juicy brush, where you can actually have a lot of bead of water. And then I follow up with painting the spine, creating that channel of water down into the front of the leaf this way. Then I clean my brush and I take all my water out of it so that I can then pull all those beads down to make pretty nice even wash. Lovely. So I'm going to do the second one with slightly more paint. So this is going to be a vibrant color. You see me adding a bit more paint there, but it's still pretty juicy. I'm going to create as much bead as I can, and then bring it down into sort of a point in the center of the spine, like this. I added it into the front as well because it's of the fold. Same thing, then I wash my brush, and then I take that sort of thirsty brush to pull all my bead down. But because I have more paint in this leaf, you see more of the gradation of color from vibrant to weak in this one. See the difference? Oops. A bit off center there. I'll get better at videos. Sorry about that. So, the right one is vibrant. Ooh, can't spell. The left one is more weak or dull, but also even wash. The right one is juicy and vibrant. Alright, next, once this has dried, I'm going to create texture on this leaf by doing it by sections. So I'm adding a bit more paint so it becomes a little thicker than your weak tea, so it's more like a slightly stronger tea. And I'm going to do it by section, starting from the bottom. I'm going to go around each section, just on the outline of the section. And what I'm going to do is load this up with paint. So when I do this outline, the outline is a channel of watercolor. So I'm just, you see me dabbing on it. It's filling that channel with more paint. And then I wash my brush and clean most of it. This is a thirsty brush. Using the tip of my thirsty brush, I just hover it over that channel inwards into the center. You see how sometimes it's a bit awkward, the angle, so just turn it around so it's easier to do. And I stop just enough so that I leave a little bit of light there in the middle. The coffee plant is quite shiny, so I want to create a bit of that illusion of shine in the center of each section. So here I'm repeating myself, creating channels, and then adding paint to that channel, and then softening the edges inwards, leaving a little bit of light. sometimes different sections hasn't dried yet. I'm sort of moving a little fast here, and it bleeds over to each section. That's beautiful. So this technique is a combination of traditional watercolor botanical painting with a bit of my own style of just do it, man, just bash. Spontaneity is the key. So I'm just softening edges as much as I can so they don't look too harsh, especially when the section is getting smaller and more narrow. There are some section that is just too small for you to have a highlight, so I just leave it and repaint it later. Next, now that this layer is dried, I'm going to layer in a little more paint, especially in the fold. And then I'm going to create channels in the spinal and extra spines on this leaf. And then I'm going to fold some more color into it, just like previously done. And then loading that channel with paint by dabbing it with your tip like this. And then I clean my brush and take most of the paint out. So this is a thirsty brush, and I just use that thirsty brush to soften the edges inwards. So I'm not doing too much, because this is a smaller leaf. I'm just softening the edges, not creating that highlight so much. Okay, next, what I'm gonna do here is start mixing a little bit of red for my berries. And then I realized, all right, let's just do a sketch first. So the berries the shape is a bit like an olive. So they're kind of oblong or an oval. So what I like to do as an exercise is to make as many as possible of the shape, so that you can practice quite often a lot of this. Now that I'm ready, let's go. Going into sort of coffee, weak coffee mixture, tilting my paper slightly to create the bead and going to the front. So I'm trying to create a even wash. And then you see that when there's a lot more paint, a lot more of that puddle in there, you can lift it up and swoosh it around. The next one is a little more thirsty. You can sort of see it. There's less water on it. And then, so I just go through this entire page, trying out different ways to produce different results. So that means swooshing it in again, trying to not leave them puddled on one side. So the next one I do here is I'm trying to create a highlight. And I'm testing out where the best place for the highlights are. So at the end of this, you see the one I did on the right. You can start looking at the different berries made and decide which one you actually like to do. And you know now how to do them. Okay, the next two, what I'm going to do is do a technique called wet on wet. I wet the paper first. Make sure it's just a gloss and not a puddle. What I mean by that, you can sort of see when it's a puddle. So what I do here is when I have a puddle, I just clean my brush, thirsty brush, to suck up some of that puddle up. You want a gloss, you don't want a puddle. Then I mix up some color, and then what I do is I'm gonna drop it just at the tips. So this one I'm just doing front and back. And then you see that I'm actually not painting it, I'm just dropping color. So I'm just doing the edge there, but I'm letting that wetness do the painting for me. So this, you want juicy, vibrant mix of color. And you see me just dipping and dabbing all the time, just at that same point, and letting the water do the work. That's it. Let's just gonna leave that, let it work on its own while I'm doing a bunch of other ones. So here I'm trying out gradated wash, and then trying again another gradated wash, but with the highlights in a slightly different place. And then I'm starting to do a slight different shape of the wash that's more up and down and different. And then this last one, I thought I'll do something different. Try to do a more voluminous kind of coloring by making this movement. So it kind of shows you the roundness and feel of the berry as you do this. So, and I'm leaving some white that are kind of not one big block of white, but a spread of white. That's interesting. Have fun. So I'm now trying to put my brush in it, keep it rolling off. So here I'm going to do a speeded up version of the whole composition. Enjoy. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.